A throbbing pain in her head wrenched her from her sleep. Feeling like she'd been struck by a hammer, Scarlett groaned, forcing one eye open and then the other. Her mind was foggy, but she could tell something was wrong. For starters, the unfamiliar room. She rummaged her mind for what had happened to her last night, but found nothing. It even took her at least 5 minutes just to recall her own name. She moaned as she shifted onto her back. Her whole body felt heavy, almost as if she'd gained weight overnight. There was also a dull aching between her legs, as if... A squeal tore from her lips when her arm bumped into something solid while trying to find a comfortable position to lie in. Startled, she prodded it once, twice, still unsure what it was. Then she turned her head to the left, and her eyes widened in disbelief. There was no way her mind wasn't playing tricks on her, she thought. The man lying next to her on the other side of the bed simply couldn't be real. He didn't look real. Scarlett stared at his face, which seemed to have been sculpted with the sole purpose of seducing anyone who laid eyes on it. His jaw was perfectly defined, just like the tall bridge of his nose and his thick set of eyebrows. Scarlett's breath hitched when she noticed his lashes. Man, she wished hers were that long. They sat elegantly on top of the man's cheekbones, making him seem even less realistic. Hesitantly, she brought her hand closer until her finger poked his soft lips. Suddenly, the man's eyes snapped open, and her brown eyes locked onto his gray ones. Scarlett screamed, loud enough to wake up the entire floor. She bolted upright just as he did. With horror, she realized she was wearing nothing but a thin piece of lingerie that left little to the imagination. She quickly covered her chest with both hands. Who are you?" she shouted at his face. "What are you doing in this bed, you perv?" However, Scarlett did not have to wait for his answer. Suddenly, memories of last night came back to her, scene by scene. She remembered being with her friend Megan, who had come up with the idea to spend the night in a hotel room, have a few drinks, and watch a movie together. Well, that was the plan, but they never got around to watching anything because as soon as Scarlett finished her first glass of wine, the world had already started fading around her. She remembered feeling so exhausted that she had to lie down on the carpet and stare at the ceiling. Then, she remembered hearing Megan laugh. It was as though Megan were a different person. Drifting between slumber and consciousness, Scarlett remembered the girl she considered a close friend leaning over her with the most hateful glare she had ever seen plastered over her face. She said, "You'll never find anyone who cares for you as much as I do, Scar. Guess what? I've got a surprise for you. I booked the hottest man in LA to spend the night with you, free of charge. Word has it he can take you to heaven with just the power of his looks, so imagine how it will feel to have him inside you. But just in case you needed help, I slipped a little aphrodisiac in your drink. So how do you feel right now?" Scarlett barely understood a word Megan said. Her body was burning up, forcing her to strip off her clothes. As she fumbled with her buttons, Megan eyed her and smirked nastily, saying, "That's right. Get naked, you little whore. When Austin gets these videos of you with another man, he'll finally see you for what you are, a cheap little..." Scarlett felt her insides twisting. These memories couldn't be further from the truth. Megan would never do something so despicable, not to her. Her shoulders trembled as she ran her hand through her hair, her pounding head nearly unbearable. The man beside her was frowning with concern. You okay?" Scarlett shot him a glare, clenching her teeth in fury. Megan had hired this disgusting jerk to spend the night with her when she was unconscious. His mesmerizing eyes did not work on her, beauty couldn't disguise the monster he was. She grabbed the first thing she could reach, which unfortunately turned out to be only a pillow, and hurled it at him several times, swinging it with all her anger. She snarled, "You fucking rapist. You took advantage of me. I'll make sure you end up behind bars. Just you wait. I'm going straight to the police once I'm done with you." Scarlett gasped when he caught the pillow in mid-strike, effortlessly plucking it from her and then tossing it across the room. A coldness washed over his face as his eyes hardened. She shivered at that sight. He spoke with his low voice. "Last night, it was all you, princess. You couldn't get enough, you were practically begging for me." "Me? I never forced anything. I didn't have to. You weren't unconscious while it happened. You can go wherever you want, but you'll never prove I assaulted you, because that's just not what happened. All right?" Scarlett bit down hard on her lower lip, shaking with humiliation and anger once she realized he wasn't wrong. She couldn't remember the details, but it was clear that she had not been forced. There was no sign of resistance on her, and even if she went to the police, she would only end up making a fool of herself. But what would happen then? Was there nothing she could do after falling into the fiendish trap her friend had set for her? Hot tears streamed down Scarlett's cheeks. For the first time, she noticed the bloodstains on the bed, and it made her cry even harder. That explained the pain between her legs. She had never been with a man before. Her first time had been with a disgusting male escort. He had taken her virginity and would remain unpunished because she had no way to prove the atrocity that had been inflicted on her. The man followed her gaze, noticing the stains as well. Of course, he'd realized the night before that she was a virgin. Seeing her break down like that in front of him softened his gaze. He didn't know how to react. He opened his mouth but struggled to release the words that hung on the tip of his tongue. Finally, he said, "Look, I'm sorry, all right? I didn't know. Although you were pretty forward last night, I am still willing to take responsibility for what happened." Scarlett barked out a bitter laugh. Take responsibility? What could that possibly mean, coming from a male escort? What? Are you going to return my virginity? He frowned, but she cut him off before he could respond. Just get out of this room, now, or I swear to God I will kill you with my bare hands. He didn't wait to be told again. He jumped out of bed and calmly gathered his clothes. Despite Scarlett's murderous glare in his direction, he took his time getting dressed. Then, he pulled out a business card from his jeans pocket and handed it to her, saying, "If you change your mind, you can call me." "I mean it, princess." Scarlett snatched the card and tore it into pieces right in front of him. Pointing at the door, she said through her gritted teeth, "Get out." He inhaled slowly. The pain in her eyes told him that she was now impervious to his explanation. And so, he walked away. As soon as he made his way out of the hotel room, he heard her crying like a child behind the closed door. For some reason, his heart ached at that. He had never been one to feel any emotion, and yet... Still, he forced himself to leave and took the elevator to the ground floor. Walking out of the hotel, he had his hands buried deep in his jeans pockets. When he passed by the glass doors at the entrance, he glanced straight at the clear blue sky and took a deep breath. Just then, two men dressed in dark suits approached him, faces strict. "Sir," they greeted in unison. Tearing his gaze away from the sky, he started walking straight ahead. His two bodyguards followed close behind. "That girl," he said softly. "Yes, sir?" Find out everything about her and report back to me as soon as possible." "Yes, sir." A dark Range Rover pulled up beside them. He climbed inside, and his bodyguards shut the door. Scarlett couldn't tell how long she had cried in the hotel room. She had run out of tears. She whimpered, but her cheeks stayed dry after she had wiped them clean earlier. It frustrated her that she could no longer even express her anger. Her legs wobbled when she tried to stand back up. She waited for the blood to flow back after staying in the same position for so long. She did not even dare to look at the messy bed, feeling that she might throw up for real if she were to see the bloodstains on the sheets again. Instead, Scarlett staggered to the bathroom, swaying on her feet like someone drunk. With one hand on the wall, she steadied herself and flicked the light on. It almost blinded her. She was immediately met by her reflection in the bathroom mirror above the sink. "Oh, no." She groaned, right hand clamped over her mouth as she stared at her disheveled hair, the smudged mascara beneath her eyes, and the sheer nightdress barely clinging to her thin shoulders. She looked cheap. Scarlett stepped closer to the mirror, bracing herself on the sink. She turned her head slightly from one side to another, noticing that her neck was covered with love bites. They looked nothing but vile. "No, this is not me," she snarled. "This cannot be me." Yeah, it was. With each passing second, Scarlett had convinced herself that the woman in the mirror was, indeed, herself, shameful as that was. She burst into tears again, surprised that she still had any left. Then she stepped into the shower and turned on the water, making it hot enough to scald her skin. If only she could peel it all off. She smeared herself with soap and scrubbed hard, yet she couldn't even feel the pain. The disgust she felt was stronger than anything else. She kept scrubbing until she bled, turning the water pink when she rinsed herself off. Somehow, she still felt filthy, so she repeated the motions over and over until she could no longer lift her arms. At last, Scarlett wrapped herself in a towel and returned to the bedroom. Yanking off the sheets from the bed, she put them together in a huge pile with her nightdress and decided she'd burn it all later. For her outfit of the day, Scarlett had no choice but to put on the short dress she'd worn last night, even if it felt wrong in every way after what she'd been through. She slipped it on and let her hair fall loose, too frustrated to even think of tying it up. Stuffing her phone, keys, and a bit of cash inside her purse, she rushed out of the hotel. Scarlett hailed a taxi and climbed in, giving the driver Megan's address. Her legs trembled the entire ride. She had no idea what she'd do when she saw her. No plan, no clarity, just a desperate need to understand. Why would someone so close betray her? Why Megan, of all people? After everything they'd been through together. When the taxi dropped her off, Scarlett lingered outside her friend's apartment building for a few minutes before making her way inside. She knocked on the door, waiting anxiously for someone to answer. Just as she was about to knock again, the door swung open. Scarlett's confused eyes met those of Megan's mother. It was not her wearing her going-out dress at midday that struck Megan's mother as strange. It was her turning up on her door, as if Scarlett were the last person she expected to see. The terror on her face suggested she was hiding something. "Oh, hello, Scar," she said, running a hand through her hair. "What brings you here?" She was sweating buckets. Scarlett narrowed her eyes on her. "I'm here to see Megan." "Is she home?" Oh no. I'm so sorry, dear. Megan left very early this morning. She's not here. Maybe you come back later in the afternoon." Scarlett jostled past Megan's mother, hitting her hard on the shoulder. Luckily, she knew this house better than anyone. She strode straight down the hallway, shouting at the top of her lungs, "Megan, come out, you fucking bitch. Come out wherever you are hiding." Megan's mother trailed behind her, panicked. "What are you doing, Scar? I told you, Megan's not here. You need to leave. Now." Scarlett was headed for Megan's bedroom, but passed by her mother's first. The door stood slightly open, and out of the corner of her eye, she spotted something that made her freeze in place. "Scar," Megan's mother said with a trembling voice. "Scarlett, please. Leave now." But of course, Scarlett ignored her. She burst into the bedroom and was assaulted with drafts of liquor and sex, thick and suffocating. She covered her nose and stared at the half-naked man beside the bed. She could barely process what she was seeing. "Dad?" She breathed in disbelief. There was no mistaking him. Her father standing awkwardly, so out of place in another woman's room. "Dad?" she said again, this time her voice sharp with anger. He frowned, back straightening. Scarlett saw her father's face flushing a deep crimson. "How in the world are you here? And why are you half naked in this woman's bedroom? Dad, there has to be an explanation." "I have nothing to explain, Scarlett." It felt as if her heart was plucked out and hurled against the wall. Scarlett opened her mouth, but words abandoned her. What could she even say? The scene spoke volumes for itself. Her father jabbed an accusing finger at her. "You storm in here like the devil herself. Don't you have any decency? If this is anyone's fault, it's yours, bursting in like this." Scarlett let out a hollow, bitter laugh, then turned to Megan's mother, who was leaning against the door, staring back at her with cold eyes. "I try to stop you," the woman said flatly. Scarlett glanced between them, struggling to believe what she was seeing. Never in her life would she have pictured her father hooking up with someone else, let alone Megan's mother. They belonged to such different worlds. To come searching for answers about Megan and instead finding a disaster involving her own father felt unspeakably cruel. "Listen," Megan's mother continued. "This isn't what it looks like, Scar. You've misunderstood. Nothing is going on between me and your dad. We just—" "Save it," Scarlett cut in. "If there's only going to be lies coming out of your mouth, just shut it. Nothing going on between you two? A man in your room, his ass in full view. What else is there to explain?" "Scar," her father yelled. "No, I don't get to speak either. I'm so sick of this. Like mother, like daughter, the rotten apples never fall far from the rotten tree. How long have you been after my dad, huh? As long as Megan's been chasing my fiancé." Scarlett shook with fury. "You're both sluts. I hope you both burn in hell." At that moment, pounding footsteps echoed down the hall. All three pairs of eyes snapped to the doorway to look at the newcomer as she burst in. Megan was out of breath, but her dark glare impaled Scarlett right away. "First of all, why are you in our house? And what gives you the right to call my mother a slut?" Scarlett's fists clamped tight. She never thought she could one day be capable of murdering someone, but in that moment, all she wanted was to wrap her hands around Megan's throat and choke all the life out of her. The two locked eyes, the tension rising between them. Scarlett finally saw Megan's true colors. Megan had never really cared for Scarlett, regardless of how much she'd claimed otherwise. Megan's true colors were finally revealed, and there was jealousy and something dark lurking in her gaze. "You came right on time," Scarlett said, throwing her arms into the air. "Maybe you could explain what I just walked into?" Something tells me you always knew your mom was sleeping with my dad, but you never thought that I deserved to know. What else have you kept from me, Megan? It seems I don't know you at all. You set me up with a stranger last night so that Zeke could assault me to clearly have no idea who you actually are. Megan's mother's eyes went wide with shock. Although Scarlett wondered about her father's reaction, she refused to check. She couldn't divert her gaze from Megan just yet. Megan just silently stared back at her. Then, her mother started to berate Scarlett. What are you talking about? What do you mean she set you up? My daughter would never do something like that. You had a one-night stand, yet you're blaming Meg for it. She looked at Megan and added, Meg, say something. However, Megan stayed quiet, her face flushed red. Scarlett couldn't take it anymore. She raised her hand and slapped Megan harshly across the face. The sharp sound lingered in the room. Megan stumbled back, clutching her cheek, astonished and hurt. Stunned silence filled the room. Then Megan's mother grabbed Scarlett by the wrist, tightening her grip. How dare you lay a hand on my daughter in our own home? She raised her hand to return Scarlett the favor, but Scarlett wasted no time. Rage overtook her, eliminating any sense of reason within her. Without thinking, she shoved Megan's mother with all her strength. Caught off guard, the woman let out a small gasp as she hit the floor, her head striking the sharp corner of a table. Megan screamed at the sight of blood seeping out of the wound behind her mother's head. After rushing to her mother, she dropped to her knees but hovered uncertainly above her, afraid to touch her. Mom, can you hear me? Damn it. Scarlett blinked in surprise as her mind blank. Unsure of what to do with herself, she fisted her hands as she stared at Megan's mother, who stared blankly ahead, gaze unfocused. Suddenly, Scarlett's father rushed past her and knelt beside Megan's mother. Gently, he cradled her upper body and rested it on his lap, pressing his hand against the back of her head as she groaned in pain. Scarlett found it odd watching her father tend to another woman so affectionately and attentively. Joyce, he whispered. Joyce, talk to me. Where does it hurt, sweetheart? Scarlett might have laughed at the pet name if she hadn't been so dumbfounded. Megan's mother. Joyce managed a small smile for her father. Meanwhile, Megan was up on her feet again, a finger pointed at Scarlett. She yelled, You hurt my mom! If you have a problem with me, take it out on me! Why did you drag her into this? She could have died! Meg, stop, Joyce whimpered. I'm fine. Don't blame Scarlett for this. She's clearly not thinking straight today. Joyce and Megan shared a knowing look as Scarlett watched them. Megan then turned to her father, who was still on his knees, and uttered words that made Scarlett realize that her nightmare had just begun. Why are you so quiet, Dad? You saw what happened. How long will you stay silent for, pretending that everything's fine? How long will Mom and I play second to the only daughter you acknowledge? Scarlett let out an incredulous laugh, catching everyone's gaze. For once, Megan was terrified of her. She took a step back when Scarlett glared at her with a cold, murderous look. Scarlett asked quietly, Did you just call him Dad? Despite her fear, Megan held her head high as she said, You heard me, right? She turned to the man, kneeling on the floor, who had only just struggled to stand on his feet. Dad, I'm tired of being the illegitimate child. Now is your chance to tell the truth so we can all move on. There's no way out of this anymore. Both daughters stared at him, and he knew he could no longer conceal the truth. He avoided Scarlett's eyes as he spoke. Listen, honey, it's true. Megan is your sister. He shot a nervous look at Scarlett, whose face had turned completely emotionless. Her reaction rattled him, and his voice grew louder as he continued. Don't look at me like that, all right? I hid this from you because I didn't want you to suffer, but you leave me no choice now. You were the one who barged into this. Well, it doesn't matter now. You'd eventually find out. The truth is, I've been seeing Joyce for a long while. We were together even before I married your mother. We broke up back then, and I didn't know she was pregnant. I met Megan years later, but I couldn't bear to tell you or your mother about this, so I kept it a secret. Scarlett, all I ever wanted was for you to know about your sister. This isn't how I wanted things to unfold. Perhaps you feel wronged, but imagine being Megan, who has had to live as my illegitimate child while you had all the opportunities she could only dream of. You can't possibly be angrier than her right now. He took a few tentative steps towards Scarlett, but she remained rooted where she stood, silent and motionless all the while. Hurt took a deep, unsteady breath and forced an awkward smile at her. I see that you're taking this rather well, Scarlett. That's good. Now that everything is out in the open, we can finally start a new life. We can be a family. Stop, Scarlett uttered, arms wrapped around herself. What's wrong? You want all of us to be a family? That will never happen, Dad. Her voice was cold and monotone. You have to stop being selfish, Scarlett. Am I selfish for refusing to be related to the woman who set me up out of jealousy? Are you sure you're my real father? You sound like a complete stranger now. Lies will do nothing to help you now, Scarlett. From now on, Megan and her mother are your family. They are your sister and mother. I'd rather die than call them that. Joyce stepped in gently, placing a hand on Scarlett's father's shoulder. She spoke softly. Let's not force her. It's fine if she can't accept us now. We've gotten by without her all this time. I'm sure we can hold on a little longer. She just needs some time. Scarlett rolled her eyes at the fake display of kindness. How could her father not see the sly glint in her eyes? How could he not realize how they were taking advantage of him? After everything that had happened, it was foolish to care about him at all. It doesn't matter, he snapped, voice roughened with anger. Acting like a spoiled brat won't change the truth. Megan is your sister, and you have to accept it whether you want to or not. Since you know everything now, Megan and her mom will be moving in with us. It is pointless to continue staying separated. Scarlett gasped. The sly smirks on Megan and her mother's face made her stomach churn. Never! Scarlett screamed. That house belonged to my mother. I won't let you invite strangers in, Dad. Over my dead body will I let you do that. That house is mine now, young lady. That's only because my mother died. I won't let you ruin her memory or bring those. Scarlett's retort abruptly ended when her father slapped her across the face. The blow didn't hurt as much as the betrayal itself. Her gentle father had actually slapped her to protect another. Eyes brimming with tears, she glared back at him. She questioned, "Did you just hit me for their sake?" He didn't reply. He only balled his trembling hand into a fist, and she saw regret flash across his face. However, it was too late. Scarlett fled out the door and ignored his calls. Tears streamed her face as soon as the elevator doors shut. Her heart was aching so deeply that she feared it might never heal. She had come to confront Megan about the assault, but she had never even gotten the chance to do so. Instead, she had severed the last remnant of her relationship with her father and left the building parentless, utterly alone in the world. Scarlett wandered outside, crying as she shook her head in confusion. The awful truth sank in. Megan had destroyed her life in a matter of hours, stripping away both her innocence and her father's love. Had that always been Megan's goal? Had Megan befriended her just to completely destroy her? Dazed, she didn't see the sleek black car screeching to a halt nearby. The man in the back seat got out of the car quickly, watching Scarlett stumble past strangers without so much as an apology, trapped inside her own head. He caught up, taking her gently by the arm. "Hey!" Scarlett turned, scowling when she realized who the man was, the male escort from that morning. Although he looked genuinely concerned, she knew better than to trust him. "Don't touch me," she hissed and pulled her arm away. "What happened?" he asked, pulling a handkerchief out of his pocket. Scarlett refused to take it. "Tell me what happened," he insisted. "Perhaps I can help. Look, if this is about this morning." "Yes, you scoundrel. It's about this morning and everything else that's happened since. But there's nothing you can do. Even if there was, I'd never accept help from a male escort." Scarlett could have spat on his face, but decided against it. She didn't notice the bodyguards bristling nearby, hands resting over their weapon as they waited for a command from their boss, but he had not said a thing. "Let her go," he said, watching as Scarlett walked away. "She's carries so much anger in her." He had no idea why he wanted to help her out so badly. She was just a woman he didn't know. He had already been kind to her twice, and that was more than enough generosity shown. "Let's head to the office," he said to his man, climbing back inside the car. Scarlett haunted his thoughts on the drive over, never leaving his mind. The night before, Globex Corporation's upper management received a surprising email that their new CEO would be visiting in the morning. It was strange because none of the employees had ever met the CEO or even knew his real name since the company was founded. Everyone arrived at the office earlier than usual, busying themselves with various tasks to make everything look perfect. Their nerves buzzed with questions. Why had the CEO decided to show up at this time? There were rumors that he lived in Europe, leading another company there. It was odd for him to fly to New York without prior notice, especially since business was running smoothly and there was nothing urgent that needed to be monitored. The CEO was known to be a mysterious individual. He had founded Globex 3 years ago with over $1 million. It was an impressive feat for a young entrepreneur. The traction the company had was relentless and still hadn't stopped. As Globex grew, he poured in an additional $10 million, which enabled them to build their current headquarters, the tallest building in New York City. It was a clear symbol of their success. In just 2 years, the company had surpassed every competitor in the industry, expanding into real estate, finance, film, and other entertainment areas. Globex was a force in the most profitable markets, yet no one knew the true identity of the man behind it all. The company's executives were gathered anxiously in the meeting room, sharing whispered speculations about the CEO's appearance and the purpose of his visit. At exactly 10 o'clock, a hushed silence fell over them as they heard steady footsteps approaching. Every eye fixed off the door as it swung open, revealing the CEO's personal assistant alongside a surprisingly young man. He was tall and slender. His tailored suit fit perfectly, subtly outlining his toned arm. The tension in the room grew more palpably as He walked to the head of the table. Then, he introduced himself. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryke Mendez, and I am the CEO of Globex Corporation. I am honored to finally make your acquaintance." The executives greeted him in return. Their voices were hesitant at first before they grew more confident. With all the rumors going around, no one had guessed that the CEO would be so young. After all, someone who was so rich and powerful as Ryke had to be somewhat middle-aged. Yet, he had defied their expectations in the best way. He sat down for a quick meeting, immediately putting everyone at ease. Ryke explained that he wasn't there to pressure anyone. He only wanted a brief overview of the company's current position and discuss the steps for reaching the year's goals. The executives found themselves comfortable speaking to Ryke. He was understanding and diplomatic and gentle in speech. The meeting lasted for only 30 minutes before they were dismissed to return to work. Ryke shook hands with a few executives and thanked them for their encouragement. Soon, only he and his personal assistant, Goldwyn, remained. Goldwyn took a seat beside the young CEO. "I think you made a great first impression, sir," he commented. "Although you've been managing the company flawlessly from abroad, I'm sure things will only improve now that you're back in New York. Your family will be delighted." Goldwyn froze as Ryke shot him a cold look. "My family cannot learn of my return," Ryke said, his voice curt. "Excuse me, sir?" Goldwyn asked. "You heard me. I don't want them to know." "But I thought the whole point of this trip and the visit to the company was that you wanted to settle in New York for good. How can that be without telling your family? At the very least, don't your parents have to know about this? Why keep it a secret?" Ryke's jaw clenched. "Trust me, Goldwyn. It would do more harm than good if they found out. You know brothers will be on my back once they do. They'll never let me breathe." Ryke hated talking about his brothers as he considered them his worst enemies. Rivalry was the only thing they shared. One of the reasons why Ryke had left for Europe in the first place was because he was sick of the arguments, the constant games, the facade of a happy family. In truth, they were constantly at war with each other. Each of them wanted to take control of the family fortune and keep it for themselves. For years, Ryke played the role of the foolish younger brother. He pretended that he only cared about having fun, chasing thrills, and never settling down. However, that was all a ruse for his brothers, while he built his own empire. "Sir, your father is ill," Goldwyn pleaded softly. "You should at least let him know that you're here. Maybe you could visit him in the hospital. You could do it discreetly so your brothers won't find out." Ryke frowned, considering Goldwyn's words. Of course, seeing his father again was one of the reasons for his return, but he needed a plan before meeting him. "I'll see what I can do," he replied. Goldwyn was about to speak again when Ryke's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and saw that it was one of his men. He answered at once. "Sir, we've gathered all the information on the woman from last night." "What did you find?" "Her name is Scarlett Devons, and she's not just anybody. She's actually engaged to Austin Miller. All the details about their relationship have been sent to your email. Please have a look and let us know if there's anything else we can do." "Thank you." Ryke hung up. A dry, bitter laugh escaped him. Goldwyn watched him curiously, but said nothing. Ryke was silent, lost in thought. The name Austin Miller was one he hadn't expected to hear so soon, at least not in such circumstances. Ryke could sense that there was something special about Scarlett. He had an inkling that she would become a valuable asset to him, and at this moment, he was certain of it. Scarlett wandered through New York City for hours, her head pounding so hard, she felt it might explode. She genuinely thought she was losing her mind. She received pitying glances from strangers when they saw her tear-stained face. She had her arms wrapped tightly around herself, a pathetic attempt at self-comfort. Having lost everything in a single day, Scarlett questioned whether her life meant anything at all. Who was she without her father in Austin? She felt like a nobody. The people that she had relied on had all disappeared. It seemed she was doomed for life, without a way out. The sky had hues of purple and pink as the sun set behind the city's tall skyscrapers. Traffic worsened as crowds hustled along the sidewalks, eager to get home or spill into bustling bars. Scarlett stood adrift in all the chaos, not knowing where to go or what to do with herself. Clearly, going home wasn't an option. She couldn't risk seeing her father again. He hadn't even texted her or called to check on her. He made it obvious she no longer existed to him. Scarlett wouldn't be surprised if he already had Megan and Joyce settling into their home. There was no way she could return home. She could head to Charlotte's place, but she quickly dismissed that thought despite the smile it brought to her face. Charlotte was out of town, and after Megan's betrayal, Scarlett trusted no one. Some time was needed before she could trust anyone again. She decided to continue walking around aimlessly, hoping to figure out her next move. She walked past a restaurant, her stomach rumbling. She realized that she hadn't eaten all day. The smell of grilled steak and roasted potatoes made her mouth water. Driven and distracted by hunger, Scarlett glanced around and realized the neighborhood looked familiar. She had come here with her parents when she was a child, back when her mother was still alive. They would dine out at least twice a week back then. Those were good times. Caught up in the memories, Scarlett wandered to the end of the street and found her favorite restaurant. It hadn't changed much, and standing in front of it brought back sweet memories of her mother. A small smile tugged at the corner of her lips when she saw that the restaurant was currently part of a luxurious hotel. It felt like a sign from the universe. She could eat here and maybe even stay the night. She stepped inside and scanned the room, searching for an empty table. Then, she glanced toward the bar at the far end and froze. A gasp escaped her lips. She had just locked eyes with the last person she wanted to see. Megan still wasn't done ruining her day. Scarlett took a shaky step back, hoping to leave without being noticed, but it was too late. Megan's shocked expression twisted quickly into a sly, hungry grin. A new opportunity to humiliate Scarlett had just presented itself. With a glass in her hand, Megan sauntered over from the bar, hips swaying her black dress, hugging every curve of her body. Well, Megan laughed, voice dripping with false delight. If it isn't Scarlett Devons. Scarlett's jaw clenched. What on earth are you doing here? She hissed, her voice tinged with anger. I could ask you the same, Megan said sweetly. I was here first. If I didn't know better, I would think you were following me. Scarlett's hands balled into fists. A handful of diners glanced in their direction. She felt wrung out and hollow. She was barely able to stand straight, let alone cause a scene in public. However, Megan wasn't about to let her off that easily. Dad invited us out for a meal, Megan said, her tone casual as she studied her manicured nails. After you treated us so poorly today, we just had to relax and, well, get our minds off of what happened. I suppose Dad's going to be awfully upset once he finds out that you followed us to upset us more. Here's the kicker. We invited Austin as well. Megan's eyes sparkled with mischief as she added, "He'll be here any minute. Maybe you'll want to stick around and say hello to him?" Scarlett's eyes filled with tears even though she didn't want to be affected by what Megan said no. However, she did strike a nerve. Her father brought his new family to the same place she used to go to with her mother. Even her fiancé was no longer on her side. "Just leave me alone, will you?" Scarlett whispered, her voice cracking. She felt too broken to scream. "I'm not finished," Megan chirped. "I have better news. We're moving in with Dad tomorrow. Do you think he'll let me have your old room?" Scarlett's gut twisted with rage. Megan saw rage flicker in her eyes and she leaned in even closer. "It's a tough day for you, isn't it?" Megan murmured, "What are you going to do?" "I took your dad, your house, your lover within the span of a single day. How does that feel?" Megan was hoping to spark a reaction from Scarlett. Scarlett considered losing her temper, but she decided to swallow her rage and turned around to leave. She was done with fighting. Megan wasn't worth her time. Megan couldn't let her slip away without a final jab. She called out loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear, "Don't you want to know why Austin gave up on you?" Scarlett paused in spite of herself. She knew Megan was baiting her. She knew what Megan was going to say next would only hurt her further, but she couldn't help it. The ache of Austin's rejection gnawed at her. Austin had stopped answering her calls, and she had no idea why. What had Megan told him to make him turn his back on her so easily? How could he believe whatever it was without hearing her side of the story? The restaurant fell into silence. Every patron's eyes were trained on her, waiting for the next cruel revelation from Megan. "I told him just the kind of girl you are," Megan sneered. "I told him you cheated on him with other men when you two were together. I even told him that you had a whole history of abortions." He was furious, and I had never seen him like that before. Since I had proof, he had no choice but to believe me. Naturally, he turned to me for comfort. Scarlett spun around slowly to face Megan, catching the mingled satisfaction and hatred in her grin. "Don't look at me like that," Megan spat out. "This is what you deserve. Got it? You and your mother started it. Your mother stole my dad first. Did you think I would sweep it all under the rug? Think again. Taking Austin is only the start. I'll strip away everything you have, right down to your last name. Just you wait. You lose it all, piece by piece. This is only the beginning." Scarlett simply couldn't take it anymore. Something inside her broke. A wave of rage like nothing she had ever felt before burned through her. Walking back, she grabbed Megan by the shoulders and slammed her forehead into hers. Startled gasps rippled through the restaurant. Megan screamed and clutched her forehead as Scarlett staggered back, her own head throbbing. She had been hoping to break Megan's nose, but much to her dismay, she saw that she had only left a swollen mark. "Are you nuts? What's the matter with you?" Megan screeched. Scarlett leaned in, voice low and trembling with raw hatred. "I will bury you 6 feet under," she spat out. "Mark my words. I swear I will tear you down." If no one had interrupted them, she might have made good on her threat. She would have squeezed the life out of Megan there and then. Then, a furious voice thundered from across the room. "Scarlett!" She whirled around to find that it was Austin who shouted at her. He had arrived just in time to see her at her worst. D. Her heart plummeted at the sight of his disappointed face. "What are you doing?" he asked, bewildered. Her lips parted for speech to arrive, but no words came. He was right. What was she doing? As Scarlett met Austen's gaze, she wished she could sink into the ground. It was the worst day of her life, but none of her past suffering compared to that moment. The man she loved was looking at her with revulsion and disappointment. A whimper escaped her lips. She searched for words to say anything that might erase the look on Austen's face, but the longer she stood there, the more hopeless she felt. She knew that he was a stubborn man and that he had already made up his mind. Her meltdown in the restaurant didn't help either. "I can explain," she managed, her voice shaky with tears welling in her eyes. Scarlett stepped forward, only to flinch as Austen recoiled, moving out of her reach as if she was something filth, even unworthy of a glance. "Austen." From the corner of her eye, Scarlett saw Megan approach Austen and cling to his arm. Scarlett felt sick as she watched Megan touch her ex-fiancé. Megan donned a pitiful expression, her voice thick with insincere concern. "You should hear her out, Austen. You're being too harsh. Give her a chance to explain herself, at least." Megan pretended to sympathize with her, acting as if she were selfless enough to stand up for Scarlett. But Scarlett saw right through her act, even though everyone seemed blind to Megan's venomous side. What explanation could she possibly offer? Austen shot back, voice trembling with anger. "She slept with another man." "She set me up," Scarlett insisted. "You're lying." Scarlett's tears streaked down her cheeks, Austen's words cutting her like blades. She stared at Austen, wondering where his kind personality had gone. They had been together for 4 years. It was as if none of that mattered. Had he forgotten all her sacrifices, all the suffering she bore for his sake? A few years ago, Austen had survived a devastating car accident. His leg had been so badly injured that most people believed he would never walk again. Scarlett remembered the endless nights spent by his hospital bed when even his own family hadn't stayed as long or cared for him as much as she did. She had taken him to New York's best doctors, even setting her own life aside to help him. She cooked his meals, accompanied him to every rehabilitation appointment, and held him in her arms while he cried himself to sleep. She had been with him through it all. Yet right when she needed him the most, he abandoned her without a second thought. The least he could do was to hear her out, but who was she kidding? Her father had abandoned her. It wouldn't be surprising if others did too. Her father stood by the entrance and scowled, his eyebrows furrowed in disapproval. He spoke up. "I see you couldn't stop at causing trouble at home. You had to come here and start again. In public, no less." "Dad," Megan cut in, her voice pleading. "Please, you have to talk to her." "I tried, I begged, but she won't listen to me." Scars made up her mind. "She won't come home if we're there. Please, just try to talk some sense into her." If Scarlett hadn't been so shattered within, she might have laughed at Megan's faux concern. But her father's response left no room for mirth. "Well, Scarlett, it makes no difference to me anymore. If you don't want to come home, then don't. You may do as you please." Scarlett blinked, feeling numb. She was so broken that she barely felt any pain anymore. Her gaze slid from her father to Austen to Megan. They had all become strangers to her. Distracted, Scarlett failed to notice the group of security guards entering the restaurant with one of the hotel managers. The middle-aged man spoke coldly before them. "May I know what the issue is?" Austin turned towards him immediately and jabbed a finger towards Scarlett. He said, "We apologize for the disturbance, sir. She came in here and caused a scene. I assure you that we played no part in it. We would appreciate it if you removed her from the premises so we can enjoy our meal in peace." The manager's gaze fell on Scarlett, who had wrapped her arms around herself. Her body was trembling from humiliation and heartbreak. Her ex-fiancé was requesting that she be thrown out. It stung, but deep down, perhaps it was for the best. She didn't have the strength to walk herself out. Yet, to her astonishment, the manager didn't ask for the guards to escort her out. Instead, he turned to Austin and said, "Sir, I must ask you to leave." Austin, her father, and Megan all stared at the manager in disbelief. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. We saw what happened. This young woman did nothing but defend herself after being humiliated. Our establishment does not tolerate such behavior, and you do not fit the sort of clientele we wish to serve. I must insist you leave at once." "This is outrageous," Scarlett's father barked. "I've always been a loyal customer here. You can't throw me and my family out. I demand to see your manager." "I am the manager, sir." "Get your boss on the phone now." "My boss specifically ordered that you leave the premises immediately." Everyone tensed. Scarlett had no idea what was going on, but from the shock on Austin's and her father's faces, it was clear they knew exactly who the boss was. The Drunken Moon Hotel belonged to Globex Corporation, a company with the mysterious CEO who was said to be living abroad. Clearly, he wasn't abroad anymore. They turned pale, realizing that someone powerful stood against them. They tried to mask their fear, but it showed in their eyes. They were surrounded by security, forced to move toward the exit along with Megan's mother. Scarlett followed behind them, her steps heavy. However, the manager stopped her. His tone softened as he said, "This way, ma'am. We have a private booth prepared for you upstairs. You'll also be checked into one of our best suites for the night." "Are you talking to me?" Scarlett pointed at herself, startled by the sudden turn of events. Megan whirled around, yanking herself free from the guard's grasp. Her voice cracked with rage as she screamed, "You throw us out but let her stay? How is that fair?" "It's a direct request from the boss, ma'am," the manager replied calmly. Megan and Austin exchanged a glance. No words were needed. They both wondered the same thing. Why was the CEO of Globex Corporation looking out for Scarlett? Their questions would have to wait. The guards hurried them through the door, ignoring their angry protests. Once they were gone, the manager pulled the last security guard aside. He muttered under his breath, "See to it that these people are never allowed back in again." The guard nodded, murmuring into his earpiece as he left. Scarlett followed the manager up the stairs, feeling the eyes of the entire restaurant tracking her every move. The low buzz of whispers surrounded her, and she knew they all were talking about her. Scarlett's mind swirled with questions as she went upstairs. Who was the stranger protecting her? Was her day about to get even stranger? The private booth upstairs was the most luxurious place she had ever seen. It had a shining marble floor, and its interior decorations were worth more than everything she had ever owned. The table was Bocote wood, a detail not lost on her. Although she had grown up in wealth, Scarlett had never experienced anything so lavish. She sank onto a leather cushion, and a waitress handed her a menu. The manager smiled kindly at her. "Please make yourself comfortable," he said. "Tonight, you are a VIP guest. We're under strict orders to accommodate your every need. Let us know should there be anything we can do for you." "Oh, thank you. May I know who to thank for all this?" "Our boss doesn't wish to reveal himself at the moment, but I'm sure he'll reach out to you when the time's right." "Oh, I understand. But please, thank him for me." "Of course." After the manager left, Scarlett glanced down at the menu, a small smile on her face. Suddenly, tears spilled over. Her entire day had been a nightmare, but in that moment, someone had shown her a flicker of kindness. She had almost forgotten how it felt like to be cared for. Remembering how Megan, her father, and Austin had been thrown out of the restaurant, her tears shifted into laughter. She still didn't understand what had happened, but for the moment, Scarlett chose to relax, savor the luxury around her, and revel in the memory of Megan's furious face as security escorted her out. Whoever the boss of the Drunken Moon Hotel was, Scarlett hoped she'd soon have the chance to thank him personally for his kindness. Megan stared at her salad arms crossed over her chest in clear frustration. After being kicked out of the Drunken Moon Hotel, she and her father, mother, and Austin ended up in a restaurant across the street. All of them sat in silence, stewing in their own thoughts as they picked at their food. Their pride was wounded, and they couldn't help but resent the idea that Scarlett was currently in one of the best hotels in New York, likely being pampered by the entire staff. Megan was so angry a lump settled in her throat, making it impossible for her to eat. She felt that all her efforts had gone to waste. She had gone through so much to take everything from Scarlett, but she had never expected such an outcome. How had Scarlett gotten close to someone as powerful as the CEO of Globex Corporation? The question gnawed at her, driving her nearly mad with curiosity. "Eat," her mother nudged her gently. Megan only shrugged, her scowl deepening. Her father tried to cheer her up by saying, "Don't worry, Meg. Getting kicked out doesn't matter. This place is nicer anyway. You should try the steak. It's amazing." She rolled her eyes. "I don't care about the food, Dad. I just want to know how Scarlett managed to pull this off. That tramp is not sleeping with the CEO of Globex, is she?" She noticed her father's grip tightening around his fork. A forced smile flickered across his face. He said, "Honey, I know you're upset, but you shouldn't call her names. She is your sister." "She might be my sister, but I can't lie, can I? She must have slept with him. It wouldn't be your first rodeo anyway." Megan had told the lie so many times, she was starting to believe it herself. She knew all too well that Scarlett had been a virgin before her. She set the ladder up, but she refused to let herself dwell on that. Across from her, Austin sat in stiff silence, looking even more upset than she was. Megan winced, realizing just how jealous he was. His feelings for Scarlett remained, despite everything. "I never would have expected this," Austin complained. "Scarlett played me for a fool. All this time, she made me believe I was the only one when—" "She's always been a liar," Megan interrupted him. "How did she even pull this off? No one has ever met the guy. I tried to arrange a business meeting with him a dozen times, but never had any luck." "Do you even have to ask? The answer is simple. She just had to spread her legs." "Megan, enough," her father thundered, fists slamming onto the table. Megan quickly shut her mouth, knowing better than to upset him further. "Sorry, Dad. I'm just so angry at her. She got you publicly thrown out of her restaurant, for God's sake." Her tactic worked. Her father quickly forgot her earlier disrespect, too consumed by the humiliation of being escorted out by security. "I've never been so humiliated in my life," he muttered under his breath. He was a well-known businessman respected by his peers. Luckily, no one he knew had been there to witness the humiliation he had experienced thanks to Scarlett. Austin could only sympathize with the family, but Megan and her mother were all too familiar with being mistreated. They did not come from wealth, so such mistreatments weren't new to them. They all watched as Scarlett's father pulled his phone out with newly found determination. "What are you doing, darling?" Megan's mother asked. "I'm freezing all of Scarlett's credit cards," he replied. Megan straightened up, excitement flickering in her eyes for the first time since they left the Drunken Moon Hotel. "Really?" He nodded. "I've been too lenient. I'll teach her a lesson. She'll see she's nothing without my support. Since she doesn't want to come home, let's see how she gets by without my money." Scarlett's father smiled with smug satisfaction after freezing her cards. The four returned to their meal with letter hearts, convinced they'd finally struck back to make up for the humiliation Scarlett had caused them. Meanwhile, just across the street, Scarlett was having the time of her life in the most lavish booth of the Drunken Moon Hotel. It was almost surreal considering how her day had started. She was served an endless array of exquisite dishes, each more delicious than the last. Scarlett ate until she was full, sipping sweet wine and feeling like genuine royalty for a moment. Of course, she couldn't finish it all. When she finally put her fork down, a young waitress appeared, asking if she would like anything else. Scarlett thanked her, explaining she had more than enough. Soon after, the waitress returned with the same manager from earlier. "I hope dinner was to your liking, ma'am," he said. Scarlett let out a giggle. "It was. I've eaten so much I can hardly breathe." "I am glad to hear that," the manager smiled. "If you're ready, I'll show you to one of our VIP rooms." "Lead the way." Scarlett followed the manager as he led her to the elevator, her eyes widening as he pressed the button for one of the hotel's top floors. She knew that was where the presidential suites were. They cost a fortune for even a single night. Scarlett nearly told the manager she couldn't afford it but quickly changed her mind. After all, she'd be paying with her father's money. Given how angry she was with him, it felt like a fitting punishment. Letting him foot the bill was the least he deserved. If the restaurant booth was luxurious, then the suite Scarlett was led to was nothing short of heaven. The door opened into a dreamy space filled with elegant furniture, and the huge windows offered a dazzling view of the city lights. Two young maids finished tidying up the room as Scarlett entered, both offering cheerful greetings to her on their way out. "We've drawn your bath, madam," the manager informed her. "Please enjoy yourself. We hope it'll bring you some well-deserved relaxation." "I can't thank you enough," Scarlett told him. "There's no need to thank me. It's our pleasure. If you need anything, just contact reception. Good night, miss." "Devons." "Good night, Miss Devons." Scarlett waved at him as he left. Then she immediately turned around, grinning with delight as she gazed around her enormous suite. The suite, spanning 500 or 600 square meters, featured 2 master bedrooms, a study, and an entertainment area. The decor was understated yet undeniably luxurious. It perfectly suited to Scarlett's taste. She wandered into the bathroom, where a steaming bath awaited, topped with rose petals and scented oils. Next to the tub sat another bottle of aged wine, just like the one she had at dinner. Scarlett slowly slipped out of her dress and underwear, folding them neatly before placing them in the closet. She paused in front of the large mirror, remembering how broken she felt in the morning, staring into a mirror in a different hotel, in a different world. She never could have imagined her day would end like this. Her spirit felt lighter, her heart a little less fractured. It wasn't healing, not yet, but it was something. She slipped into the bath, sinking into warm water and fragrant petals. Scarlett nearly drifted off to sleep as soft music played. She sipped her wine as she relaxed in the luxurious environment. Over an hour later, she climbed out of the bath, wrapped herself in a light robe, and jumped onto the silky sheets of the king-sized bed. So carefree in her solitude, she was completely unaware that just one floor above her, a man was sitting in his study with only thoughts of her on his mind. The man, Ryke, lounged in his chair, swirling a glass of whiskey. The hotel manager entered his room after a quiet knock. "What is she doing now?" Ryke asked. "She's settled into one of our suites, sir. As of now, I believe she's enjoying a bath or getting ready for bed." "Was she happy?" "Yes, sir, very much so." The manager raised an eyebrow at the small smile pulling at Ryke's lips. It looked strangely out of place on someone as cold and composed as Ryke, and he didn't even seem to realize he was smiling. He kept thinking about Scarlett's teary blue eyes as she was humiliated in the restaurant. After the morning she had endured, she hardly deserved such treatment. Ryke felt a sudden, overpowering urge to protect her, but he couldn't explain why. There was something about Scarlett that breached his walls. Perhaps it was guilt that was gnawing at him over what he had done to her. The memory of the blood-stained sheets on that morning made him flinch. "Take good care of her," he murmured to the manager. The man nodded and left at Ryke's request. Alone in his dimly lit study, Scarlett filled his thoughts completely. He recalled the way his hands had wandered over her soft body the night before. He shivered as desire stirred within him again. He was used to the company of beautiful women, but Scarlett was unlike any other. Ryke would find a way to make things up to her, whether she wanted him to or not. Deep down, he hoped that she would give him a chance to know him better.